Because I'm just curious to understand how the family unit has evolved over the years and what modern day polygamy looks like now. I've got Dr. Beatrice Maingi, who is a counseling psychologist, and I've also got Ken Oko, who's a sociologist at the University of Nairobi. Welcome. How are you both doing today? Yeah? Cold? Huh? Good thing we have our warm drinks here. So let's talk about polygamy. Let's start by defining it, actually, just so that we're all clear. And maybe while we're at it, we can define polyandry as well. But what is polygamy?
Polygamy is plural marriage. That's the simplest definition you can get of polygamy. And when you talk about plural marriage, you're talking about one person attached to more than one partner.
Okay.
And in many cases, it's a man to multiple spouses.
Right.
But there are various, offshoots of polygamy. Actually, the technical word is for the man to many women is polygyny. When a man marries, yes, many women, multiple spouses, that is polygyny. When a woman marries many different men, that's polyandry. Okay. Yes, and then now there are other general terms like, polyamory, where people live in a group setting and everybody has sexual access to everybody. It's like a group marriage, but it's still polygamous in the sense that there's no monogamy involved. And those people are restricted. If you're like a group of 6, then the 3 of you and the 3 women all have sexual access to each other, That's polyamory. And then now you have, various little offshoots of polygamy, which a lot of people don't talk about, like polyfidelity, where you have like one person marrying more than 2 people, but they swear fidelity to each other.
So like a throuple, that's I think the new word.
But they're loyal,
to each other.
Loyal to each other.
So the 3 of them are in a relationship.
Yes.
So just to be clear, in say polygamy, as we know it, which is a man with say 2 wives, it is a man entering the relationship with the 2 women, and not so much the 3 of them. Like the woman is not in a relationship with the woman.
Socially, they have to now build networks.
Right.
Because a lot of times the mistake with polygamy as we know it is that people try to keep the other partners, like at bay. If you know what I mean.
Homes.
Yes.
Yeah.
So then they sometimes are hostile to each other, or sometimes they're averse to each other, or they don't even know each other until much later in life.
Yeah.
But if you bring them in the traditional sense where you have one homestead and they all live together, then they must have relationships with each other.
Right.
Yeah, so that the women are also like conjoining with the men, knowing we are his wives.
Right.
And they defend each other, they defend the man and all that. That's model polygamy.
Model polygamy.
A model.
Okay,
yes,
model
which
polygamy.
Which is very rare to find. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So where did it start? Or maybe not even polygamy, but do we know the origins of the family unit, what it looked like? Do we know that? If we're going by the Bible, it was man and woman, right? But and maybe Dr. Beatrice, you could take us through it. But so what is the earliest piece of evidence of what a family unit looked like?
A family unit in the traditional communities is where a man, like Ken has said, would be married to one wife, and then he would keep building the family to have more than one wife. And then the families would be polygamous. So there would be one man with many wives and many children.
So that is, as far as history takes us, that's the origins of what family units look like. So it was polygamous.
Yes, it was polygamous.
And at no point was it polyandrous, which is one woman.
That came much later.
But it came much later.
Yes.
So do we know how it broke down to now what we now look at as the ideal, which is one man, one woman? And I say ideal in quotes,
When you go back to religion, when God created Adam and then put the lady as a helper, he, in his mind, if you go through the Bible, the Quran has the same story. He was actually thinking of a monogamous life for mankind. Yeah, Islam's a little because they make it official. Yeah, but when you look at the Christian origin, the evolutionary story almost matches that, because we are saying the primates, everybody had one-on-one, and the idea was that you choose a mate and that is your partner. And that's what God did in the Garden of Eden. until those guys went, you know, haywire and started discovering other things. But if you're thinking of the anthropological origin of family or marriage in that sense, shock on you, it actually started with the Chinese.
Okay.
You know, they say that in pre-biblical times, the Orientals had a situation where you'd have an interpretation of somebody knowing that there's a woman 50 miles away who belongs to him, you know, and they would always keep in touch, they would go see each other, you know, and that's how they started building up the family thing, if we forget the Bible.
Okay.
Yeah, but now society then evolved, and the Aborigines in Australia now started having group settings where if you're like three sisters, one brother from my home will marry the three of you, and my other brothers will have access to you. That's what the Aborigines did.
Wait,
and
say that again. So one, if you had three sisters,
if
there's three sisters
if I
in a
come to
homestead,
marry you, you come with your sisters.
So we're all like your...
Yes, and then my brothers will also have access to you. You know,
Stop.
so
The Aborigines were
that's what
wild.
they did, you know, and it was a one happy family. Believe me.
Wow.
You know? The Hopi of India do the same thing.
Okay.
When one family marries, you marry the whole family. So if like I come to you, then all my brothers will marry all your sisters.
Wow, that is so interesting. So how much of the breakdown of that into what, you know, what the family unit looks like today, how much of that was dictated by, say, religion or culture, or maybe even, is there like a genetic disposition to sort of just, is there anything about how we interact with others that's genetic? I just want to understand what caused the evolution.
The psychologists will tell you about
Of
instinct.
the family unit, yeah.
I think as Ken is saying, it's about religion, because Christianity teaches about one man, one wife.
Right.
And then there is also the issue of civilization, you know, when people started copying the European way of life.
Okay.
Where, because in the West, the Europeans, they believe in one man, one wife. So when we started adapting to this culture, then people started upholding the issue of monogamy. And you also find that in the traditional African communities, polygamy was very important, because people had huge farms, and so the more children one produced, the more labor they had for the
prosperous
farm.
you are,
And the more prosperous they are. You know, the more wives a man married, that was a status symbol. And so the man was regarded to be wealthy if they had many wives. But when you look at today's societies, we don't have the big farms, so there may be no need for you to produce so many children to get the labor, and also the Christianity and the civilization. So today, when people get into polygamy, you know, it is frowned upon by religion and also westernization.
But it's interesting that you say it's frowned upon by religion, and yet you know, if we look at, I mean, you sort of mentioned it before we started rolling, I believe. The Bible has references of multiple wives. So then who decided, actually, this isn't as per, you know, to our religious constructs. This doesn't fit right with my religion, if it's there. And I know we're only talking about Christianity, but Islam, for instance, upholds that. You know,
You know, when you fast forward to modern society, something she just mentioned, the economy is actually what is enforcing monogamy. Because you might want to have 2-3 wives, but when you think about the expenses and the economic rigmarole around it, you're like, okay, let me pause.
Right.
Yeah, so the economy is actually doing what moral society is supposed to do. Religion is supposed to enforce monogamy, but the economy is doing it better than religion and the law. And you go back to tradition, and you're thinking of the extended family, you're thinking of social networking and kinship systems that were very strong at that time because of multiple marriages. And a politician would never win any election anywhere if he didn't marry from every clan around there. You know, then all the guys would vote for him and say, you're the one. You know, so that way, polygamy started having a fight between religion and politics and between religion and the economy.
Okay.
And so human society is such that the reason I was referring to instinct is we are instinctively drawn to one person.
Okay.
Just like the crocodiles.
But are we though? If you look at like how the
Even if you
I'll
might
let you
have
finish.
multiple partners, you're always instinctively drawn to one person. And 2014, we carried out a study amongst the polygamous families in Western Kenya, including Nyanza. And those men were telling us that I love, most of them, actually 90%, I love this one more than the other wives.
But you love this one more than the other one today. What about next year? What happens next year? Don't you?
And you know, we actually looked at what is called marital age, and we were asking, so how long have you been married to this one? And you find this one wife who is his favorite, and they've been married for a long time.
Okay.
The ones who come in, you know, recently it's the razzmatazz, it's the excitement, but he doesn't have as much affection for her than he has for the first one. And so the first one might just look like an icon there, and everybody says, oh, she's a tree of the village. But the guy actually is attached to her more than anything else, more than anyone else. Yeah, so if you go back to the evolution that you're talking about, families is such that it is an instinctive reaction to life. You get to an age, especially women, sorry to say, you have this maternal clock that is ticking, and you're thinking, I need to hook up, I need to hook up. And so you start looking over your shoulder every time somebody taps. Yeah, and the men are there like, oh, okay, yeah, I think it's also time. You know, so it's very instinctive. And then later you adopt the social, you know, parameters that go with it, because you have to tell your mom, oh, I've met someone, I'm bringing him home. Then the mom will say, if it's from here, no. If it's this age, no. If he looks like this, no. That's now when the social stereotypes set in.
Yeah. So, okay, you've mentioned instinct, and I want us to go back to that a little bit, and maybe even Dr. Beatrice, you can take us through it. Is it really instinctive to just be with one person for the rest of your life? Is that the natural disposition of human beings, of men and women, to just be with one person for the rest of their life?
Yes, I think it's a natural instinct to be attracted to one person. And as Ken is saying, sometimes even when a man is married to 2, 3, 4 wives, there is one woman that he loves. And you know, it is said that men are not able to multitask.
Oh, shut
So even when there is married to 5, 6 wives, he will tell you that the woman I love amongst all these is this one. There is one that he loves, and others that he's married to for other reasons.
Right.
Yes.
Okay, so you do believe that instinctively we sort of are attracted to one, maybe not attracted, but we are drawn to being with one person and staying with that one person for the rest of our lives.
You stay with that one person for the rest of your life while you're still married to others.
Okay.
There is one woman amongst all the 5 or 6 that the man is in love with.
But when you think of the gender divide as well, we have this instinctive monogamy where women are naturally monogamous. And she might go into a situation where she's married to a man who already has another wife, but she feels as if I belong to this man. Yeah,
women
men are
not
like
naturally.
that. Women are naturally, very instinctively monogamous.
Okay.
Yeah, men, I'm not too sure when she talks about multitasking, but
Yeah.
you know, men are like that. Men are very, you know, they're very.
But how much of that is learned though versus nature? And I'm asking this knowing very well that the society we live in sort of can often will turn a blind eye to a lot of what the man does when it comes to his relationship. Yeah, his relationships generally. You know, men will cheat. Men are always going to just be staring at women. Women are there to nurture. So how much of that is learned versus natural and nature? I don't know if
you know, the psychologists will tell you, if I may just take the cue, that when you grow up and you watch what other people do, imitative behavior is usually very powerful. Because then you see what your father is doing, what your uncle is doing, what your big brother is doing, and you're thinking, it's all right, I can also do this. So sometimes, like when men start cheating, you ask him, why are you cheating and you have such a beautiful wife? He says, oh, I thought it was, you know, he can't even explain it. And that tells you that it's just a masculine thing. You know, it's an instinctive reaction to him being a man. But then now
it's
you
a
learn,
learned behavior.
No, now you learn how to play. If you know what I mean.
No. That watching. I mean, I'm not the expert here, but and I'm sure there's like studies and all that you're using to draw from. But the way you've described it, it just, to me, if I grew up seeing my mother, her sisters, my aunts and cousins doing that, you pick it up because it's what you see, and it's what you normalize, and it then becomes a part of your life. And I think our society for the longest times excused that, permitted that, legalized that, versus the other way around. So is it really natural? Is it fair to say that that women are naturally monogamous? And men are naturally polygamous, and I think that's very convenient. Very convenient. Very convenient.
I think the issue of socialization comes into play here. Right. One psychologist called Albert Bandura, he taught that people learn through observation and imitation. Right. So like you're saying, when you grow up observing your father having more than one wife, or your grandfather having more than one wife, there is a possibility that later in life, the person may copy that behavior. So there is the issue of socialization. Of course, there is also the issue of the personality of the person. You may be brought up in a family that is completely monogamous, but because of the personality that you have, you find that you get into issues of multiple relationships.